All right, good morning. Welcome back. This is tape 19 of the 2025 Gold Series, high voltage number 11. It's been a few days since I've been down in the shop, but early Saturday morning I got some time. So what we're going to work on today is finishing up the back half here, uh, make it so I can mount it in and maybe even get to the fin today. So we'll see how it goes. All right. So first off, I kind of piece of 1/8 light ply. That's a bulkhead back here. What I do is I trace it on the outside, and I'm going to cut it out, and then I'm going to try and remove a little bit so that it kind of just drops it. Because you got to take into account the thickness of the ball, so it's about 50 thousandths. So let me get to cutting here. All right. So cut it out. You just leave the line a little bit. I'm going to go over to the sander and clean it up. All right, if you look, kind of just getting it right up and leaving just a little bit of the line. I use green pen so you kind of see it. See how well it fits in. All right, so we are perfectly just about, we're size to size right there. Okay. So now, what I'm gonna do is take a pair of calipers and scribe a line on it. So I'm gonna get to the same size as the ball set. Okay. So roughly, what I'm gonna do is take it and scribe it around it. And it helps if your dividers have sharp points on them. Okay. I don't know how well you can see it on the camera, but now there's a little indent in it you can see pretty good. If you have to, you can take a pen over it and mark it. Or what you could do is take a Sharpie if you wanted to, put a line on it and then cut through a Sharpie and you can see the spot on it. But I can see this pretty well. So we'll go over the grinder and just take off that little bit of material. Okay. Let's see if it fits in. See how close we are? That is very close. In fact, just one spot actually. Oh yeah, look at that. Just so I didn't take enough off. Alright, so that's perfect now. I mean, that is a perfect fit in there. Okay. So that's one. So you're gonna make two bulkheads because you have to have a bolt apart torque. But this one is dead on now. What we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to make a mark. Actually, let me see more to the center. Nice, not much. Okay. Alright, so we gotta sink a blind nut in. We're gonna use a 440 to hold it in place. So let me drill for the blind nut, which I use a 154 drill bit or number 23. So okay. Alright, so I get the blind nut installed. Now what I do is take another piece of 1/8 and I'll drill a hole in it. Enough for the 440 to put on top of it. And this will be the other bulkhead we need to make. So we'll line it up here. And we'll drill a 1/8 hole. I'll do is I'll bolt it together. So I kind of line it up, bolt it together. One of the things I like to do with this is glue the washer in place, because there will be a copper tube that goes over it. So just a couple dabs of CA on it. And just the other thing I do is I run a little bit of CA underneath the blind nut so it holds it in place as well. Now what I'll do is just mark this piece, trying to get the pen underneath as much as I can. Alright, again, you got your piece ready to cut out. So I will put a little bit more CA on here, just to really hold this washer in place. Because there will be a copper tube that goes over this, or an aluminum tube, so that you have a nice clean end exit on the plane. But if you can hold the washer in place, it's really good. I'll let this dry for a second while I got my Dunkin'. Alright. And we'll cut it out on the saw. Alright, this one it doesn't matter as much. You can kind of not cut it. You don't have to cut it out as neat. And just watch your coffee on your table. Alright, now I'm just gonna hand get it up to the line. Just using 120 paper. Again, I like sticky back stuff. I know I mentioned it last time, but I wish I could show it. I guess I could. Got a paper towel rack, and I mounted it underneath my bench, and that's where I hung all my rolls of sandpaper on. Easy to get to. You just pull out what you want and cut. Modern conveniences, I'll say. Let's see how good we did here. Alright, we're going to take a little bit more off. Then the other thing is you got to remember, this piece should be slightly smaller because it's on this side of it. what we'll do is I gotta just final fitting them in a little bit. What you don't want to do is you don't want to sand this one because that one's perfect for that. What you want to do is sand this one on a little bit of an angle. Because remember, the fuselage is tapered back there. It is not equal there. So what I do is kind of just on a little bit of an angle, just sneak up on it until you get to the line. Okay, pretty good. All right, now we'll fit this in. Now what we're gonna do is, because of the stab, the angle of the stab, I'll show you. But because of the angle of the stab here, we have to take a little bit more off the inside one. I'll show it to you on both. Take it off both actually, but see again, I'm cutting it on an angle. Not that it's critical, but it'd be a good fit if it could rust up against the stab. It just makes it a little bit better. And it looks better that nobody can see it too. So. Okay. All right, good. Fits in nicely. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we got to glue in. Oh, that's the other thing I want to try. You stick it in place and then put the back half on to make sure there's nothing missing here. Now what we're going to do is just fit the back half on, just to make sure there's nothing like going on at the work. Okay, it fits up pretty good. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to glue the first bulkhead in, and we got to glue the second bulkhead in. All right. All right, so what I'm going to do on the back of this is put, because there's a former that's about 1/4 of an inch away, so I'm going to take a piece of 1/4 inch here on both sides just to make a stop so I get it exactly where I want it, and I can glue it to that former as well. So I'm going to glue on a piece of 1/4 of an inch and then just trim it underneath it, and it should be just about right. Just a scrap piece of 1/4 inch. So you got it there. I'm going to sand it off flush, and what I'll do is I'll undercut this so it just goes in there and sits there, and we'll check the depth, just letting the glue kick off here. But again, this it's not really critical, but for me, I got a former that's right there. It'll give me the perfect set on both sides. It'll set up against the former. It gives another gluing surface. Just no downside to it. So let me clean this up. Okay. Make sure it's glued well. All right. See how well we can show this. I don't know how well you can see it. You can see there's a former right there. All right, we're gonna have to unbolt the stab. you can see the back end. That's the mounting plate, the 1/8 plywood there. Alright, so we're gonna have to take a little bit off this. So we're just gonna remove some of the so we get it at the depth we want. That's pretty close. Just a touch more with there. Okay, that's pretty good right there. Let's just check it again. It's pretty good. Alright, so I do want to undercut this a little bit just to give room for the stab to go in. If you take a look, it's kind of got a slight bevel to it now. This is all the little stuff you got to do that I'll say is really pretty time consuming, and when you're done, you're like, oh, that's it. Pretty happy with that. Gonna use some epoxy here because plywood, CA and plywood don't really have a great bond. Especially this little piece here, back here. Okay, that's pretty good. Alright, so what I will do, see what I got here. Oh, I got some, what I'll say, 5-minute epoxy. This stuff works pretty good, pretty quick. The only thing I don't love is that you gotta use these applicators up pretty easily. But what are you gonna do? I can't stand mixing epoxy, so this, for me, this is, I like this better. Right, before the epoxy comes out, let's just get this ready on. Just want to make sure you get it on the wall of plywood. All right. All right, so while the glue's drying, what I'm gonna do is put in the stab back in to make sure that's right where I want it. What I will do is probably drill and put a pin in to make it easy to locate these holes. Well, you don't take it apart that much where it's a huge challenge. Just want to make sure there's no interference here. Kind of just babysit this a little bit and hold it where we want it. Alright, so we'll let that we're gonna let that dry for a few minutes. Then the next step is we're gonna come put a piece of wax paper here with a hole in it, get that lined up, and be able to put this other one to it, put some epoxy on it, and then put the top half on. So we'll get that dry for a minute. But while I'm waiting, I'm gonna get out the the template for the rudder fin, and we'll start making the rudder fin. We're waiting for stuff to dry. Somewhere in here is the fin. So what I do is I try to save templates. If I make something, I save it. Let's see. That's off the plane that was supposed to go to Poland. This was off High Voltage 7. What else do I got? Landing gear strut template. What else? Some traces, some wing templates. Landing gear layout for this plane. So it's always nice when you have a template because you can kind of just use it. If you can imagine here, somewhere in here is where it's going to line up. So, all right. I have to make some adjustments to this based on the back of this plane. So if you look, so what we'll have to do is extend the piece in here to get it to fit off the back half of this. Okay. But that's what the rudder shape's going to look like. So we'll make a rudder for it now. We'll make this oversized here. So we still have to clean up the back of this. So the reason why it's short back here, the original mold was made with an 11-inch nose. And I chose to go with a 12-inch nose moment. And I obviously couldn't add to the mold, so. So we'll just have to add to the back of it. Alright, so let me get out some, I use 3/16 balsa, so let me get some sheets out. Quarter inch. Nope. $190. So that is 3/16. Let me get the piece out. I got a good piece. So it looks like all I have is 3-inch. Alright, so it looks like, oh, I got some 4-inch down there. Alright, so I don't have a lot of room down here in my shop, but I got, my wood is on the back side over there, and I got, alright, so what I got here is 3/16. This is 3/16 by 4 by 36. This piece weighs 30 grams. This is a piece of 4-pound wood. Because it's in the back, I want to use pretty light wood. Here's another piece. This is 3-inch. This is sea grain, actually. So very light wood. That one's just 5 pounds, and here's another piece of 4-pound wood. So really take a lot of focus on the wood you put aft of the CG where you can. I always try to use my lightest wood in the stab and elevator, the rudder fin, where I can. Alright, so I'm going to lay this out, rough cut it in, and then I'm going to show you what I do with my rudder fin to add some strength to it and to keep it from getting banged up. So this here is 1mm carbon round rod. So what I'll do is after I cut it out, I will lay the round rod right in the center of it, and I'll sand to it and put a point on it, so it becomes a sharp edge if you want. You can leave it round, but it also then keeps it from getting dinged and dented. Same technology is used here on the leading edge of the stab, right? Because with these pointy stabs, I've always noticed people ding into them. But if you have it with like carbon around it, it won't get damaged. It adds some strength, and it really adds no weight at all. Alright, so let me just get the phone back over here. One thing about 4-pound wood, it dents easy. Alright, let's just... I'm going to kind of look at how we're going to lay this out. You know, the grain is somewhat important here. Not critical, but it is. These two pieces almost cut from the same piece of wood. Mark it like it's be a straight line anyway. Okay. All right. Alright, what we'll do is we'll cut this out. Where is my... Alright, I figured out which way I set it up. Ah, wait a second, there we go. There we go, attaboy. Now what I'll do, I'm gonna get a piece of wax paper and glue this together. Use some Fixie. Just run a bead of Fixie, and then match your joint up. Take a paper towel and then just wipe the excess off. Using a straight edge, I'll take my time and cut it. The wood is soft, so you gotta be careful. You know, 4-pound wood is great, weight-wise. However, it is soft, and when you're cutting coarse grain, there's a tendency to what I'll call chunk. So you just gotta be really careful. Especially around the edges, so if you want, you cut into it. If you cut into it, it's better, but it will peel away. Just take your time here because you want to, because it's going to be a finished edge here. Alright, so nice finished edge. Alright, what I did was, the grain is running this way on this piece here. These two pieces. On this piece, the grain is going to run that way. You know, you could go with this way of grain, but I'm always worried about that because the grain will crack that way. This way, it has less opportunity to kind of do that. So, just going to try and carefully sand the seam out. Alright, now onto the curve. Alright, so we're going to go 2 inches by 20. 8 should be enough. I'll make it 8.5.